All right. Francis, do you like the UFC?
Yes.
You do. There you go. Wake up. Monday morning.
My thought process was on saying something, but I forgot.
Monday hitting you hard, Maxwell. All right, so the UFC pay-per-view record has been broken, and it's done something that hasn't been done since the glory days of Mike Tyson in boxing. And I'll read you that quote from MMA Fighting, and a lot of it had to do with the UFC 207. It was UFC's, UFC 207 specifically, 5th 1 million plus buy show of 2016. The only sport in history that had ever had 3 million buy shows in the same year was boxing, which did it in '96 during the heyday of Tyson, who fought 3 times that year, and then in 2011. So he fought 3 times in 2011 also. But again, I think this is where you can get some actual solid statistical proof that the shift has now happened with certain stars, with certain fighters in place in the direction the UFC is going. Because some of those UFC million-plus pay-per-view buys did not involve a McGregor or a Rousey. One of them was UFC 200, which was not even a great card.
Yeah.
So I think this is a momentum changer. I think this is a game changer when it comes to the UFC. I think that the UFC has won over the young audience. I think the UFC could be likened to the presidential election in terms of millennials. And then you have boxing, which still has its groundwork with a major population because, as some people have put it, boxing's been around for 70, 80 years on an Olympic level at times, on the world's biggest stage at times. So, Francis, my curiosity is, by the end of this year, will the UFC have completely taken over a larger age range with the people who might not be watching right now?
It's fair to say that they're on that path. I think they've already done that. I don't think that anyone can argue that the UFC has tapped into many different audiences. I think that it attracts old, young, across seas, in the US. They've just tapped into an audience that is rabid. It's continuing to grow. It's attracting people who will love other sports. Like, it's even got Meryl Streep mentioning it in a Golden Globe speech, despite the fact that she may have had some sort of insult to it. I mean, the MMA fans will take insult to any sort of shade thrown their way.
So true. It's a really
They'll
good point.
take an insult to anything, but it's Meryl Streep. Like, how can you be insulted by Meryl Streep? Insulting the MMA. Do you think she's ever watched it? People are going crazy about it. I think they're just trying to get
No, but if she were to
retweets.
act as, let's say, like Ronda Rousey in a biopic, she'd win an Academy Award
doubt.
and a Golden Globe.
People are already talking about her. She's going to do she's going to play Hillary Clinton in a biopic. That's the only reason I didn't like Meryl Streep, is that she did the movie about Maggie
That would be
Thatcher.
the first time Hillary Clinton. That would be the first time Hillary Clinton won something. So, first of all, the second best meme of the Golden Globes was, I want people to look at me literally the way everybody looks at Meryl Streep.
Yes.
And there's just like 8 pictures.
Like, she was mentioning people in her speech, and it was going to them, and it was as if they were already winning something. Like, it was going to that kid that was in Slumdog Millionaire, who's a great actor. It was going to him, and he was like, he's like looking around, like as if to say, I'm getting mentioned in Meryl Streep's speech. I won. So, life is done.
By the way, this whole MMA diss, I don't think it was written that way. She said,
just
like,
because of arts and
her
arts.
point. I know that was to say her point was, if you take away the foreigners from Hollywood and this country in general, then you'd be left with football, or like American football, and mixed martial arts, MMA, which isn't arts. But I don't think she meant it in that sense. And it was you miss the big picture, which happens with MMA fans all the time. And they miss the big picture. They care about the tiny speck of dust in the bottom right-hand corner of the portrait, rather than the whole fucking frame.
Irony, though, of the whole thing that no one even picked up on last night is, technically, if you take away the foreigners, then you're taking away Conor McGregor as well. And then the MMA probably has nothing.
And all Brazilian MMA, Amanda Nunes, gone, Dos Anjos, gone.
So while you were getting upset about that, you could have just probably got tons of retweets if you just tweeted out, well, technically, Meryl, take away the foreigners, we're not going to have MMA either. But to get back to the other pictures...
we have another element too, sorry. Number 7, if you want to know.
The UFC, what this recent record-breaking pay-per-view shows also is that if people thought that Ronda Rousey was losing her audience draw because of her loss to Holly Holm, well, this kind of shut that up, because she attracted a huge audience to this fight. And even if she comes back again, which I think she should really rethink if she wants to, I think she might lose some of her draw, but people will come back to see her rise and fall again. It's that people will love to see a comeback story or someone fall flat in their face.
I think there's a really easy way for the UFC to get to 5 separate 1 million buy shows. Yeah. McGregor versus Diaz 3 would do it. McGregor versus actually anybody would do it. So if he can fight,
Yeah.
let's be conservative, say 2 times this year. Obviously, UFC would like him to fight 3 or 4 times. But if he fights twice this year, there's your million buy shows. I believe if John Jones comes back at any point towards the second half of the year, I think that's a lock to do a million buys because I think there's now just far too much that's gone into John Jones's story, and there's almost no empathy or sympathy given his way based on, but that's still going to draw the eyeballs towards your sport. With the Barclay show, the first show in Brooklyn, and the New York appeal, there's a good chance that could do it because it's got a debut of a new division. And with Cody Garbrandt, I actually believe becoming a superstar in the UFC and the way he fights and the show he puts on, maybe not his first title defense, even if it is against a TJ Dillashaw or a rematch against Dominick Cruz, but if he were to win again and do it in the fashion that he beat Dominick Cruz by the end of this year, he can do a million pay-per-view buys.
Interesting.
Plus, he's working with Uriah Faber at Team Alpha Male, and those guys are like the most surfer bro, MMA bro, chill dudes ever.
The dudes.
They're
the
just
chill
the
dude
dudes.
MMA dudes, chill bros dudes. All right. Well, I think the point has been made. I think that if you want to try and compare UFC anymore, if you still are fighting that fight that you're comparing boxing to UFC,
if we
I
mention
don't
Mike
think you're
Tyson,
do it.
there's got to be something else that's mentioned.
Oh,
What does Mike Tyson do?
That's what's going to say boxing. Boxing! It's going to say boxing!
What?
Because Mike
What's he
Tyson
doing?
is now going to be training Chris Brown. By the way, Chris Brown got into a fight already, I just heard on the
Did he
radio
win?
this morning, in New York. I think he's just picking fights with people to test himself.
Did he lose?
I don't know what happened. I just heard that he picked a fight with a guy, a manager in New York of some gym. Apparently he was playing basketball, cussing people out, and then he got in an argument. They call it a fight. This is what I don't get in America. You guys call fights, and sometimes that means like an argument. Like if you say to someone in Scotland, yeah, get into a fight, and it turns around, yeah, he was just arguing with the guy. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not a fight, mate. That's not a fight. God. A fight is a fight. So I was a little confused. It might have just been an argument, which is an argument. That's not a fight. I rest my case.